Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Goin Digital Show, the podcast for K-12 school leaders. I'm your host, Greg Goin, the school district superintendent in the state of Illinois, and we're glad to have our live viewing audience tonight on the TeachCal network at teachcal.com. This is episode number 21, and tonight we're talking about the Energy Bus for Schools program, a great program based off the John Gordon best-selling book, The Energy Bus. And the Energy Bus is still very popular throughout the country, and it's a great book that's being incorporated to really develop positive school cultures throughout the country. So we have a great guest list tonight, and we're going to go through and talk to two amazing principals, and we're going to talk to the person that's really spearheading the Energy Bus Leadership Program tonight. So at this time, I want to welcome to the program Nikki Spears. She's the Chief Energy Officer with the Energy Bus Program. And our principals tonight are Bethany Hill, a elementary principal from the state of Arkansas, and we also have Jennifer Reisinger, a elementary principal from the state of Texas. So welcome to the Goin Digital Show, guys.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Well, I'm excited this is actually part two of our conversation on the Energy Bus. I had the good fortune of interviewing John Gordon, the author of the book, not too long ago, and did an exclusive one-on-one with him. What an amazing guy, Nikki, and he's just, it has to be very inspirational to wake up and know you're working with someone like John Gordon. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think when I first met John a few weeks ago, it was like the end of May, I got in touch with him. I talked to him on the phone first and talked about the principles and how we could use those in schools. And I was just in awe. I think I didn't sleep for a few weeks after talking to him. I couldn't believe I was talking to John Gordon. But he's such an amazing guy with such amazing insight. And I learned so much from him. And not only that, I think the most interesting part, the thing that I love about John is he's so giving. When I approached him with this idea of helping schools, because I was in a district where we were trying to find some principles that we could use to guide behavior in leadership, and came across and thought about the Energy Bus and approached him with it. And the first thing he said was, "Nikki, I don't want to charge a lot of money for this. I want it to be affordable to our schools." And that really touched me because I'm a former principal. I just left my job 3 weeks ago, and that was something that drew me to him. And I can't talk about the experience with John unless I mention God, and I felt like it was a connection that God put together.
Well, great. He's an amazing guy, and I'm looking forward to talking a lot about the book and the program tonight. Let's jump to our two acting principals. We have three principals tonight. Nikki, I didn't know you were just now leading the principalship, so I'm sure you're going to have a lot of great insight from really both sides of that perspective. But Jennifer, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your background and brag on your school a little bit for us.
I'd love to do that. I actually taught in the Houston area. I was probably close to Nikki, and then I was a counselor in the Houston area before moving to East Texas, to small town Athens. And our campus last year was the first year for our campus to be in existence. We're in a building that we had some reconstruction. But it's the first time that we are a pre-K through 5th grade campus. And our culture is amazing, which is part of the reason why I really wanted to take on the Energy Bus this year, because we have a lot of good things going. People love each other. They love our kids. They're very passionate about watching their kids grow and loving them from, all day, every day. And I think that's very important before we take on the Energy Bus, that we already be in a good place. So we are super excited to be on the bus and kick off our year.
Great. Bethany, tell us about your school district.
Sure. I live in central Arkansas, right outside of Little Rock, in a town called Cabot, and we are a district of about 11,000 students. We have 9 elementaries, and I am the lead learner of Central Elementary, and starting my 3rd year here. I actually had the staff read the Energy Bus my first year, and that was the first thing that we did together as a staff, and read it over this summer, came together, and we also bought the children's book for every classroom teacher so they could share the children's book with the kiddos. And so the first few weeks of school, that's what we worked on, talking about the 5 rules for the kiddos and getting them acclimated to those, while the adults sort of focused on the 10 rules and how we could model for our students, those principles. And so what I loved about it so much was that it hits home with everyone's personal life. And to me, that's where we need to go first and make sure that we support that person, the individual, the soul of a person, and feed that so they can be their best professionally too. So that's what I love about the Energy Bus, is that it's not an educational book necessarily, but it's something that can change someone's life personally and professionally. So and that directly impacts our kids. So.
And Nikki, I love your title. You are the CEO, but in this case, that stands for Chief Energy Officer. And I was fascinated when I had a chance to talk to John. He said that by nature, he really wasn't a positive person, that he actually has to work at it every morning when he gets up to kind of channel that positivity. So I guess it's a two-part question. Are you a positive person? And then what is your responsibility as the Chief Energy Officer?
Am I a positive person? I try to be as much as possible. I've learned to reframe. I think growing up, I wasn't so positive. Not that I was negative, but I was always this little girl searching for to answer a question, and that question was, how do we bring people together so that everybody feels valued and appreciated? And so that question has followed me into my career. And I felt like I found that I couldn't look for things outside myself, that if I wanted change, it had to occur with me first. So I always model the things that I want to see. And if I want to see positivity, I need to go in with the energy and bring the energy to my school, to my students, to my family, to my church. And so just knowing that and seeing how that worked in my own life, I was like, okay, it starts with me. And so I would say, yes, I'm generally a positive person, but I do share with people that there are challenges, that we all face, and sometimes I'm not so positive. I think what makes it different is that I'm aware of when I'm not and what I need to do to get back to the other side. So, yes, I guess I am positive. And your other question was my title and my role. I chose Chief Energy Officer because that title was mentioned in the book, and I thought, that's what I want to be. I want to be the Chief Energy Officer, someone who comes in and brings the positive energy and models for our leaders, our teachers, and our students what that energy looks like. So when I go into training with the teams, and I've already trained Bethany, I've trained part of Jennifer's team, and we had so much fun together. And I find that when we come in and we bring that positive energy, you get it right back most of the time. My role is to guide the school leaders on their journey to this positive school culture, and to be there to answer any questions that they come up with. Part of our Energy Bus for Leadership journey is a survey and time that I talk to the principal. So it's all about customizing the program to what they need, rather than, here you go, this is what you're going to get. I really listened for the needs, and then we fill in the gaps that way, because a lot of schools are already doing a lot of positive things that they want to keep in place, and we just want to enhance that with the leadership journey.
Great. And Bethany, I love the fact that you introduced yourself as the lead learner of your school district. That's something that you see a lot, especially on social media. And Tony Sinanis, the fantastic elementary principal out east, is the one that he's probably the first one I saw using that moniker instead of principal. So I guess to both Bethany and Jennifer, why is it so important to be that lead learner and kind of, set the tone for the school year with your faculty and staff? And I'll start with Bethany.
Well, I firmly believe in teacher empowerment and teacher leadership, and I hate the term teacher leaders, because I feel like every teacher is a leader and should be at all times. They lead their classroom on a daily basis, and they need to venture outside of that classroom and lead their peers as well. And so to do that, it takes some vulnerability, it takes some transparency, and so that's why I identify myself as a lead learner, so they can see me in that role and see me open and transparent and admitting when I don't know something, asking for help, looking for support and things like that, because when we're talking about kids, we are better together, and when we work alone, then we're not able to do our very best for kiddos. So in turn, that is a model for our kids, because we want to empower them as well, give them a voice, and that's what the leadership journey is all about, is to provide students with those skills, those principles that they need to self-regulate, to control their thoughts, and to know how their actions and their words affect other people, and be able to use them appropriately. So, our adults have to model that as well. And so I think being the lead learner is titles are scary to some people. And that was the first thing I did. On my door, I had a sign that said principal, and it was harsh, and so I covered it up and put a sign that says lead learner. And I don't know of anyone else in my area who does that, so I have to often explain it and what that really means. Sometimes I have to put principal in parentheses, so
Right.
people understand. But
Yeah.
it's a term that's spreading, and Tony Sinanis, and Joe Sanfilippo in Hacking Leadership, they talk about the lead learner and the importance of that, and Michael Fullen does too. And so I just firmly believe in that title, and it's more of a partnership than it is an authoritative role. So.
Well, I'm sure Tony and Joe will both appreciate the shout out you just gave them there for the Hack Leadership book. So Tony and Joe have both been on the show. They're great guys, and Joe's actually been on twice. So be sure to run out and get the Hack Leadership book, because it's a great read for all school leaders. Jennifer, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to echo a lot of what Bethany just said. I've only been in education, this will be my 10th year. So I am leading people that have been in education longer than I've been here on earth. So I am learning right alongside with them. They are doing a lot of great things, and it is my job to enhance their strengths and make sure that we're valuing them for their strengths. We really had to push, coming from Houston, where we were on Twitter and social media was everywhere. Coming to Athens has been an adjustment. So, we're really pushing our teachers, pushing technology, pushing Twitter, and I have to do that alongside with them and make sure I'm modeling those expectations and guiding them along their journey, and making sure my door is open, so anytime they want me to get in the trenches with them, I absolutely am. And just making sure that I am modeling, exactly what Bethany said, what I'd want to see them model for their students, who, of course, are lead learners as well.
Okay, great. Nikki, let's back up a little bit. We're talking a lot about the Energy Bus with Schools program tonight, but I want to kind of circle back and talk about the book specifically. For those people out there that aren't familiar with the book, haven't read the book, first of all, I encourage everyone to run out and buy it. It's very inspirational, and it's a great, it's an easy read, and it's it's a feel-good type book. And it's basically based on positivity. But can you summarize the book for us? The book is about George, the bus driver, who really encounters a lot of different obstacles along the way. And can you kind of tell us what the book's about?
Yes. Well, the book is about normal character George, who wakes up one morning he's going through difficult times in his personal and his professional life. He wakes up on a Monday morning, and this is a typical morning for George, who says that every Monday is, he looks for the problems, and he wakes up and he's thinking, what else can go wrong in my life? And when he walks outside, he gets what he expects. There's a flat tire, and George is like, okay, so what do I do now? Because I have a meeting that I need to be, I need to be at a meeting today, and he has no way to get to work. So he considers it, and immediately dismisses that idea and goes to his wife, who has all these chores to do that day. She's taking the dog to the vet. She's taking the kids to school. And I tell this story when I speak on my tour. I talk about this story, and I think about that, and I think about how his wife said no to him. She's like, no, you're going to have to ride the bus. And I thought about that for myself, and if my husband was the person that was working and bringing in the money, I'm taking him to work. I'm not going to worry about all these chores or tasks I have to do. I'm taking him to work. But what that tells me is that his wife is fed up, that George has been selfish, and this is her opportunity to be selfish. So George has to ride the bus. So when George gets on the bus, he meets Joy, who's the perfect depiction of her character and her name, because she is so happy, and she calls him Sugar when he gets on the bus. Hi, Sugar, how's your day? And George is just grumpy. And I often say, can you imagine, and we've all been there, where we see who's so happy and they just make us sick. And I'm sure that's how George felt getting on that bus with Joy, and who was just so happy. He's like, what are you so happy about? But over the next 2 weeks, Joy takes George on the ride of his life by introducing him to 10 principles that's going to change his life. And what I liked sharing with people is that it wasn't so much that Joy did something. She shared the principles, but it was George who had to apply them. And so the readers are able to follow George and as he transforms into Joy. So we can either identify with George, the grumpy person, we've all been there, or we know somebody that's there, and we all want to be Joy. We all want that. And so how do we do it? And so I think the principles kind of guide us to how do we live that life that we all want, that peaceful, positive life. And so these principles guide us to do that. So we identify with George in that way.
And Bethany and Jennifer, I want to come back to you. What is it about the book that you find most inspiring, or what was it that really kind of drew you both to the book? Jennifer?
It really does hit home. You can read it and you can think of yourself personally, you can think of yourself professionally. I had so many teachers. I gave it to them at the end of school and told them we kicked off our theme. I had so many teachers text me 2 or 3 days later, because it's just such a quick, easy read. It's not even a beach read. It's one that you can't put down at home when you're busy. And it's just a quick, easy read, and everyone just relates to it. And they all took different pieces from it, but just the ownership of everything has been the biggest piece that I've seen come back. I've had teachers that have been posting on Facebook. I was waiting and procrastinating because I was hoping if I didn't read the book, that meant we didn't have to go back to school. But they were like, I started it yesterday and I finished it the same day. They were like, it was an easy read and it was very applicable. And so I think, in the positive energy, you can feel it. And it's been able to, we've had some different conversations here, because I've been able to be like, hey, you're kind of being like George. Let's be more Joy. And we've been able to joke around, but not really, with how we're responding to things that are happening to us. So it's really kind of opened up some conversations, and we're excited.
Bethany, what are your thoughts?
Well, I love the book because it forces so much reflection and looking in. So sometimes it can sting a little, parts of it, because it really pushes the individual who's reading it to be honest, with herself or with himself. And I wrote all through mine because there were questions that John puts out there that asks, or it's a certain task that he tells you to do. There's a part where you have to write a vision for what you see, in the future. And so it really, it's almost an interactive type book. It's almost conversational. So you feel like you're, in there with the author. And so I love that part about it, and the way it applies both personally and professionally, and helps align those things and helps us find balance. But also, like Jennifer said, that accountability piece is there. Once everyone has read that book, it's really easy to point out who is being an energy vampire or who's being a George. And sometimes I've seen my staff, I've seen some people call each other out for that, and say, look, you have to stop, and we need some positivity here. So I've also shared it in the past. I was an assistant principal before I came to this school, and we also did it at that school. And I was there 2 years, and we spent 2 years on the energy bus there. And I shared it with a couple of parents when I was at that school who were really struggling with some things. I had a family who had a child who was very ill, and mom was tired and she was worn out, and she just couldn't see anything positive because of the situation. And she became very upset one day and kind of yelled, in the office and everything. And so we sat down and we talked, and I gave her the book, and I said, just try this, just read it. And so she came back a few days later, and she said, wow, that book is, it's big. And so it kind of shifted her thinking too. So I think that's, what's something that I want to see. I've told Nikki that to push that out into our families and the community, because our kids have taken it on, our staff have taken it on, but I want to see our families become more involved and be able to see the benefits of that positivity, so it spills over into the homes of our kids, because not all of our kids come from positive homes, and sometimes it's just because families don't realize the type of language that they can be using with their kids. So that's our next step here at Central.
And I think all of us can agree that working in the school business can be very challenging at times. And I always tell people, other school leaders, you can tell after the first 10 minutes you walk into a school what kind of vibe you're going to get, or what kind of environment it is. Is it a positive school culture, or is there something going on there that maybe needs some attention? I mean, even how you're greeted when you walk in with the front office staff, you can tell if it's a happy place or if it's a place that needs some work. So let's just talk about building that positive school culture, and what are some of the themes that help us do that, Nikki?
Well, I think it starts with the leader, and the leader needs to first know himself or herself and know how their leadership impacts others. And so it starts there, and it also starts with knowing that leadership is not just about having a title. It's about sharing that positive energy and your knowledge with others, but also being open to them sharing their positivity and knowledge with you. And so we talk a lot about shared leadership. And when we talk about shared leadership, we're talking about, Bethany, I know you don't like this, but teacher leaders, teacher leaders, student leaders, parent leaders. So in a energy bus school, everybody is considered a leader, even students as young as 4 or 5 years of age. And so once we see the value and what everybody has to contribute to an organization, is when we start to create this culture where now we bring in these principles, in which with the Energy Bus for Schools leadership journey, we've narrowed those down to 7 principles, not 10 that's in the adult book and not the 5. So John and I came up with 7 that we roll out to our campuses. And that just provides the common language. Whenever you talk about building community, there has to be common language. And that also means knowing where you're going. So you start out with you're the driver, but then you have to create a positive vision. So knowing where your bus is going and how do you get everybody on board. And when I go out and I train the staff, I said, so where's your bus going? And because that's important, because you need to know if you're on the right bus or not. You can't make a decision whether or not this is the right place for you if you don't know where you're going. So I think in order to build that positive culture, you need leaders who see themselves as there to share their leadership with everyone, and to also embrace others' leadership and to embrace common language. And that's what we provide with the guiding principles.
Great. Jennifer, what are your thoughts on the positive culture piece?
We, like I said, this is our 2nd year in existence, and when Nikki came, I guess that was last week.
Yes.
We talked about what's Central's vision? And I had said, I think we probably messed up. I'm a second-year principal, and I didn't have a vision last year. Not that we didn't have a district vision and we didn't have a vision, but I did like the piece where Nikki said, you should be able to go up to your kids, and your kids should say, this is where Central's going. And that's part of our teachers come back tomorrow, and that's a big part of our back to school professional development, is because now we know who we are. We had a year to prove to the community, because they were all uncomfortable about leaving their home campus and coming to a new campus, and we had time to get to know each other and become a Central family. So really that shared leadership that Nikki's talking about, and making sure that we all create the vision together and have that ownership so we can own it and move forward and take our bus in the right direction.
Very good. Bethany?
Well, Jennifer, I'm a lot like you and haven't necessarily created verbiage for a vision. That's a goal of mine, and it came out yesterday in training when Nikki was at our school, and we've had conversations as small groups and PLCs and as a whole group too about that vision, and we have a district vision that's very pointed and a phrase and all of that we go by, but we just don't have something specific for Central Elementary, for our school, that kids could come right out and say, and that families could say. So that's our next step too, and we're going to work on that the whole month of September, and I plan to talk to families about it and get their opinions on what they see, and kids, we're going to form a student leadership team so they can have some say-so and have a voice, and so I hope to make that a next step for sure, because it is important, and it's hard to start that conversation because people have so many different ideas and backgrounds and things like that, but when it comes down to it, it's all about why. It's about our why. Why are we here? What is our purpose? What do we really want to do? And how is that going to affect our kids in a positive way?
And that why is a question that I think about on a daily basis as a school leader. And when I talked to John recently, he talked about the fact that we really have a choice to make each day. We can take the positive road or the negative road, and it's so easy to be negative. I mean, I can come up with 100 reasons why I shouldn't do something, but if we dig a little deeper, Nikki, I think we need to look at the why and really kind of flip the switch and try to think in a more positive way. You agree?
I totally agree, and we address that in our trainings when we go out and talk to people. Is that research says that we have between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts per day, approximately, and at least 80% of those thoughts are negative, and 98% of those thoughts are thoughts that we had the day before. And we concentrate so much on what's not right, but there's so many things going well with our lives. And so with the energy bus, what we try to do is reframe, and we teach our kids, and we always talk about, what if we, imagine a world where kids were able to reframe early on, where they could now see the positive things going on in their lives rather than concentrating on all the negative things around us. I mean, you turn on the news, and it's scary, and it's built on, a lot of fear driven, and so we need to teach our kids how to face these challenges in a more positive way. That's part of being a 21st century learner, is being able to think critically, communicate, work with others, and solve these problems that they're going to be faced with.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think, just trying to stay positive throughout the day. If we're not positive, it's hard for kids to be positive. So we have that responsibility as lead learners every day, regardless of what happens at home or in our personal lives. Our kids deserve our very best, so we have to give it to them. Bethany, you talked about energy vampires a little bit earlier, and I'm sure there are no energy vampires in Arkansas, in your school system, or in Texas or Illinois anywhere. But if you do find them, tell us how you deal with them, and kind of go back and tell us what that definition of energy vampire means.
Well, it's a reference in the book, in the adult version of the energy bus, and those are people who tend to drain our positive energy sometimes by their presence, because we anticipate the negativity that's going to come from them. But sometimes people can have moments of being an energy vampire depending on their stress level or their situation. And so I think the most powerful thing that can happen is to have a direct conversation, talk to that person and say, what is going on that's causing you to act this way, to treat people this way, and to not avoid it. Because if it's a continual problem, it's one thing if it's one day and someone has a really bad day, that they just need support and need to be around some positivity. But if it's a situation that occurs on a daily basis and they are continually pulling others down with their negativity, whether that's children or other staff members, then it needs to be, in my opinion, brought to their attention. And number one, to offer support. How can I help you? What can I do for you to help you have a more positive outlook on your profession, on your personal life, whatever it may be? And how can we become more aware of how other people are feeling? Because I think when someone is being so negative that they are impacting a culture, if it's not brought to their attention, there's no way it's going to get any better. So that takes a hard conversation, which is really tough. And I know a lot of people like to avoid conflict, but in order to preserve the culture and to do what's best for kids, we have to really defend that and be protective of it. And once I think that that expectation is set, and people see that, then there's that respect there, and people understand the why. They understand why it's so important to preserve it and to keep it safe, because it only takes one person to impact and to intoxicate a culture. It just spreads like a disease, and if we don't intervene, then it becomes out of control and gets to where it's hard to pull it back into that positive side. So,
yeah. And Jennifer, as someone that's only been a principal for a short time, the two things that I will tell you from experience is, A, you're supposed to have all the answers, and B, you can never have a bad day. That kind of what you learn as the first year principal?
The great thing about our staff is they definitely don't expect me to have all the answers. They respect more that I would say, I don't know, let me get back to you. But I do mess up on a daily basis, and I hope I don't show that I have a bad day. But I was telling Nikki the other day, she was asking if we could talk, and I was like, we were in a room that had a lot of dust for a meeting, and I said, I've had 2 Zyrtec, 1 Dayquil, and 3 Tylenol. I'm so George right now. I mean, we definitely have those things and need to, have some forgiveness for being humans. But I'm on board with Bethany as far as those crucial conversations, and making sure that those people are presenting themselves in a positive manner. We absolutely are allowed bad days here and there, but when it's a consistent thing, it's definitely affecting your learning environment. And I'm excited because I think this setting the tone for the year with the energy bus and starting that fresh tomorrow, that sets the tone. That's what we want for the year. And if they're falling short on those expectations, or if I'm falling short on those expectations, I want someone to call me out, as well as we plan on having those conversations with them and making sure we're moving the right direction and supporting them if needed, and just making sure that we are fostering that positive environment for our kids.
Great. So Nikki, I'm sold. I'm sold on the book. I'm sold on the program. I want you to come to school. So can you kind of walk me through the process from that first phone call that I make to you to really kind of getting the wheels rolling, so to speak, and getting the bus in my school?
Okay, so I usually receive, believe it or not, a lot of people contact me through tweets, so Twitter, and I respond in that way. I'll give them my email address, and from there, I'll send them a one-pager about our program, and want to set up a 20-minute consultation. And that's a way for me to kind of listen to the needs before I just say, this is what our program is about. I want to listen to what some of the needs of the campuses are, and then I approach it in that way. And I say, well, this is what we could do for you. So the initial thing is, if they decide that they want to become, an energy bus school, we send out a survey, and it's a culture survey that we first provide to the principal, and then we survey the staff. And we provide the principals with this detailed report of, what, first of all, how they look at their culture, and then what that looks like from the staff side. And we come up with a goal. What is the one thing we want to work on for this year? We're not going to try to solve all the problems, but we really want to look at, what's going well first. We always want to look at the strengths, but then we want to look at what is one goal that you want to set for your campus this year. Like I have a campus that, trust is going to be their goal. And we have a year at a glance, which I'll go over. I'll set up another time to go over the year at a glance just to let them know what happens that first year of implementation. And we talk through it. Sometimes that meeting could be from, anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour. And I was able to travel to see Bethany because she was close, not so far away. So we had a day that we spent together, and I was able to walk her campus. I was also able to go and train Jennifer's staff and gather some information about what she needed. So I just need to now go over that year at a glance with Jennifer, the same thing, and talk about what the first year is going to be like. And I am there just as a support. We try to customize it based on school needs so that it's not so, it doesn't feel like a program, and it doesn't feel like something additional that teachers have to do or that staff has to do, but it's something that enhances what you're already doing. And I found, Greg, that the biggest part of this is the relationship for us. I feel like with, I text like Jennifer the other night, she texted me and it was late. She told me she was George. I was like, oh no, we got to change that. We got to bring you back to Joy. And so I can text Bethany, and it's not this formal type of relationship. It's genuine, and they feel comfortable. I hope they feel comfortable, asking me questions. I feel comfortable, going to their school, calling them, and that kind of thing. So I think that's what sets us apart from any other thing that's out there. Is just relationship is so important because that's what we need. We need to have someone there that's listening, that we feel that's there to support, and that kind of thing. So relationship is big.
Bethany, I don't want to put you on the spot, but as Nikki talked about setting goals, can you maybe share some, if you don't want to share your own personal goals for the bus program, maybe you can give us some examples. If I'm an administrator out there thinking about bringing the bus to my school, let's talk about that goal part of the equation.
Okay. One of the main things that I want to establish, like we were talking about before, is that true vision of where we are headed. I think if I talked to teachers all through the building and staff, they would be able to express a lot of our core beliefs and what we believe about teaching and learning, and what we believe about family engagement, and all of those separate things. But to have that one common vision statement that defines us, that brands us, is something that I really want to achieve this school year. And I think that's going to naturally come out with Nikki's support and the conversations and the nudging that she's going to provide, and the leadership that she will provide me to have those conversations with staff. So that's one of my big goals. And then the other piece is the family and community engagement. We have really worked hard here at Central to reconsider the term parental involvement, and to transform that to family and community engagement. And we don't just want them to be involved, to see notes and to read information. We want them to engage with us and to be connected and to feel like they are part of our school family. And so, and that goes into the community as well, to figure out how to build more partnerships with, businesses and nonprofits in our community. So I see it as an outreach in a way, that our school can become this piece of fuel almost for a positivity in our whole community, not just within our school walls. So and I know that's probably a vision that goes a little far out, maybe over the course of a couple of years. But that's going to start with the vision that I want to establish and to build with my team, my school family here, that can in turn hopefully reach out even further from our school.
Great. And Jennifer, I know you're working on the vision. It's still a work in progress, but can you talk about some goals that you may have in bringing the bus to your school?
Yes, sir. We have the common instructional framework, and we have that common language in the classroom when we're just talking about best practices. But this really allows us to have some common language with kids about social behaviors and really create that well-rounded student. We are really pushing, yes, we want our students to come out and be above grade level and everything, but their social skills and their life skills that they really need. And this book really, it has a lot of that built into it, and it makes for some easy conversations, some great guidance lessons, and just some common language among the campus. And also, like Bethany, I feel like we need to come visit each other, because I feel like we're both central and we have a lot of common themes. Because we're really parent involvement. Our PTO president was at the training with Nikki. She's already read the book. She read it super quick and was like, "Can I get a sign that says no energy vampires by my PTO?" This month, and I was like, "Well, let's welcome all, and then we'll tell them about it." But she's on board, and just making sure that the community really understands our theme this year, because it's going to be in our assemblies, and we are going to really hit home with this so they truly understand where our goal is as an elementary school, and that we are collaborative and partners. So I mean, a lot of the things that we're doing echo what Bethany do, but I think that that common language piece is our biggest piece that we're going to take from the Energy Bus this first year.
And Nikki, my guess would be that everyone involved in the program is going to get a copy of the book. They're probably expected to read the book and be able to have some dialogue about the 10 principles, or in your case, maybe the 7 principles. So does it also become like a building-wide book club throughout the year in which people are reading and having these conversations throughout the year?
Yes, and that's the goal. Is part of the program is we do provide the books. If the staff, a lot of our schools, they've already purchased the book for their staff, but if not, then we provide the book to each staff member, and we also provide the kids book for every classroom, so that the language is reinforced on their level. But yes, the goal is that they have these discussions not just throughout 1 year, but they continue to talk about these principles, how they apply them in their personal life, how they apply them in their professional life, so that it becomes real for everybody. So that's the goal.
So Bethany, is this a situation in which you gather with your teachers on a Thursday afternoon and we all talk about rule number 7, or kind of walk us through how that looks throughout the year?
Okay. Well, the first time we read the book was a couple of years ago, and so we used that in some embedded professional learning sessions throughout the year. All of our back to school days focused around the Energy Bus, and so we really dove into the 10 rules, and we had teachers who, teams of teachers focus on a certain rule and really dig down deep into that rule, and then share out with the rest of the staff just to see those different perspectives about those 10 principles. And so then we sort of broke those down throughout that first year and did continual reminders of how those need to look with our interactions, with each other and with our kids, and even we made connections in that and the social and emotional piece in our morning meetings, and how we could trickle that down to our kids in kid-friendly language through the Energy Bus for Kids. So we had lots of discussion on those principles, but then going back into the classroom and breaking it down to where kids can, they drew about the principles and the rules, they drew situations, they acted out things, and this is a responsive classroom school. I don't know if you're familiar with that program, but it's very embedded into the culture of this school, and it's all about self-regulation and the power of our words, and teaching children to make good choices through not through punitive measures and through targeted discipline, but through the positivity and self-regulation techniques, and being able to express and control their emotions. So a lot of that correlated and just went right along, because the Energy Bus is a lot like that. It puts the control on us, because we are the ones who choose our attitude on a daily basis, and we can choose to see the dark side, or we can choose to see the silver lining. And kids, come into our building every single day with a dark cloud hanging over their heads. And to me, it's our responsibility every day to make sure the cloud goes away for every kid, and that they leave us with a bright outlook. And then if they come back the next day with that dark cloud, we start all over again. and we've learned to do that with each other too as staff. And I constantly remind our school family, please take care of each other. Please look for people this week who may be struggling, because we get in our own little world sometimes, and we get very self-focused, and we get busy, and we tend to forget what's around us. And so I think adults need that reminder too. I know I do. And so that the first year when we studied that it was more about becoming more self-aware, I think, of our own aura that we have, and how that affects the people around us, and how that affects our classroom culture.
And we've talked a lot tonight about how adults respond to the book, and teachers and administrators in particular. How do kids respond, Nikki? What have you seen as you've worked in a lot of different schools throughout the country?
Believe it or not, the kids pick it up quicker than the adults. They identify with George. They love, I think the bus theme itself is just fun. And so the kids have a lot of fun with it. Teachers have a lot of fun with it. And the kids, it's easy to understand. It's not in a language that's difficult. I mean, we know what being the driver is, but it's not physically, it can be physically sitting, in the driver's seat, but it means that I am in control of my life. I am in control of my outcomes. And we teach kids early on that as learners, they have responsibility, whether they are successful or whether they fail, and it's their responsibility. So the responsibility is not solely placed on the teacher any longer to make sure that all kids are successful. Now that responsibility is shared with students, and we see the outcome being great, because when you ask students, it's different if you're doing something for someone else and it's not for yourself, or when you have an outcome and you're doing it yourself. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is that now I'm in control of my learning rather than having someone else tell me what to do. And so the kids really pick up on that, and they enjoy being in the driver's seat and being seen as someone who can make decisions. And we've seen that in the younger kids, where they can make those decisions for themselves.
And Jennifer asked, you think about the bus coming to your school. I'm just kind of sitting here trying to envision what that's going to look like. I envision Energy Bus posters throughout the school, in the hallways, in the classroom, maybe some Energy Bus T-shirts. How about a big picture of Nikki right when you walk into the school?
We have everything but a big picture of Nikki. We are huge believers that we only have one chance to make a first impression every year, and that is August 22nd for us. So when you walk in our school, you actually see a welcome poster with the bus, and then you walk in and you see a grill that I got off the side of the highway, and we have an energy bus. We'll actually have kids jumping out in college gear when we're done with that, because it goes along with our theme of Central Goes to College. Um, and then everywhere you have we have growth mindset stop signs and different road signs along the way. We have a school bus that says Central on it. But we very much believe in advertising, and especially for those those young babies, like when they see things on the wall, it gets them excited. So that powerful symbolism, and we want everything up and done, and I look forward to tweeting out when we have everything done, because our teachers have fully embraced it, and we have multiple bus shirts. I almost rocked my bus shirt tonight, but I didn't. I wore it yesterday, so it wasn't clean. But and the kids are all going to. We have a low SES population, and we are actually going to give all of our students a shirt that says "No Excuses" on the front, and it says "Get on the Bus" on the back. And kids are going to buy into that just because they love some T-shirts. So we have buses everywhere, and we will continue to push it throughout the year, visually and in assemblies, and for teachers during PLC. So we are so pumped to be on the bus.
Fantastic. And Bethany, as someone who has a little more experience with the program, can you give our listeners out there, maybe principals or superintendents or other school leaders, thinking about jumping on the bus? I mean, what's your best elevator speech to get people on the bus?
Well, I could go on for days about that, but I think the biggest reason to look at this program is, first of all, it starts with each individual who is in that organization as a staff member, and it gets that person aligned, and each person that reads that book, aligned and thinking in the right frame of mind, and learning how to reframe when things don't go the way they expect them to go. So that's that first step. And then when we as a staff, as a school family, become that unit of positivity, and we're all on the same page, and we have that accountability piece for each other and that support for each other, then we can be better for our kids. And so I firmly believe in taking care of the teacher's soul and heart, protecting that, taking care of that first, and that's the investment of the energy bus. It does that, and it never really goes away. You can refer back to it over and over. It's timeless. So once we have that, then we trickle that down to our kids and teach them ways to become empowered, to be able to self-regulate, to be able to step up and feel that self-worth, feel that value, and feel that they can contribute, because that's what I see so much. I am a low poverty or a high poverty school as well, Jennifer, and so many of our kids come not really knowing how they can contribute, and not having that self-worth, not having a future story. As a matter of fact, some of them just don't see beyond their next meal, and much less into their future on what they want to be when they grow up. And I think when we can remove that negativity and help them transform that, then we start to help them build that future story, and they can start to see a future for themselves. And that's the way to pull themselves out of the situation that they're in. And then my next goal too is to figure out how we can work through our kids to impact the homes of some of our kids, and the community as well, so we can be champions for our kids, because families should not have to raise kids on their own. It's too hard in our society today. We need to come together as a collective group and be supportive. And so that's my biggest selling point for the energy bus, because it's practical, it's easy to understand, and it's easy to make a change immediately. You can read it one day and the next day be a changed person because of the story that is told through George and Joy.
That's very well said. And And I want to go around as we kind of wrap up the hour here. I want the three of you to kind of share a closing thought with our listeners and our viewers tonight, just in general as to why you think you wanted to move this direction and why you think it's been so powerful. And Nikki, we'll start with you, but then we'll circle back to you for the last word.
Okay. Well, I think it's been so powerful because we all want this positive culture. We want to go to work every day and feel good about where we are and what we're doing. And a lot of times we allow that negativity to interfere with that. Well, the Energy Bus for Schools Leadership Program it reinforces how we get there. A lot of people want it, but they don't know how. And so we train people on how to do that. And we do that by modeling and practicing and talking and having those crucial conversations, because that's all part of it. And so we all want that. We desire that. And I told you in the beginning, as a little girl, I always wanted to create a culture or family or church where everybody felt valued and appreciated. Well, the Energy Bus is the answer to that question.
Very good. Jennifer, what are some of your closing thoughts?
We're just looking forward to that foundation, that strong foundation to build our vision on and kick our year off. I think we had a lot of things that went really well last year, but I think this is something that will help excel us through the year. And if anybody is considering the Energy Bus, I will say Nikki makes everything so easy. I connected with her on Twitter. She made it happen for us. And it's been very easy, and we haven't known each other forever, but I feel like if I needed something, I could be like, hey Nikki, I need this and that. She has my back. I feel like that. I do think relationships are big with the Energy Bus, and I think she is a huge selling point for that.
Great. Bethany?
Well, positive culture and culture in general is the absolute most crucial thing that we can invest in as leaders of a building or an organization, whether it's a business or a school. And so everything starts and ends with relationships, and relationships are strong ones, are the oxygen that feeds a culture. So if we can focus on the positive and let those 10 principles guide us, then it's really hard for negativity to find its way in. And when it does, it gets squelched quickly because it's not tolerated. And either support picks up for that person who is bringing the negativity in, or sometimes that person may get off the bus because it's not the right place for them, and so that can happen too. So I just feel that culture is it's just the biggest investment that we can make, and nothing great can really come out of a building unless the culture is healthy. Kids don't thrive, teachers don't thrive, families don't thrive if the culture is intoxicated. And so keeping that healthy balance is so important. And as leaders, we have to keep the pulse, we have to check the pulse constantly of the building and have to be aware of situations that are coming up that could harm the culture. And so the more positive that's built in there, the less likely it is to be harmed.
So Nikki, as we wrap up, tell us how we can connect with you, how we can get more information about this wonderful program.
So I'm on Twitter at Energy Bus Schools, and I am also, you can email me at nikki@johngordon.com and just shoot me an email and I'll send you some information. You can ask these ladies, I get back to you pretty quick, so if someone were to text me tonight, I'll probably text them right back and set up some time to talk to them tomorrow. And if they're not on the bus, they need to get on the bus, because it's just this movement that's taking place. And someone mentioned that on Twitter the other day, and I thought, wow, I love it. Our job is to spread the positive energy in the world. So it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling.
Well, I want to thank all of you for being here. It's been a great discussion. I'm excited about the Energy Bus. I hope it can come to Illinois one of these days. We've had Bethany Hill and Jennifer Reisinger two outstanding principals join us tonight, and Nikki Spears, the Chief Energy Officer of the Energy Bus program. So, again, if you want to connect with our principals or Nikki, you can find us all on Twitter, or you can shoot an email out, and we'll be glad to respond as quickly as we can. So, for number 21, that's a wrap. I want to thank everyone for viewing the Goin Digital Show tonight live on the Teach Cal Network, and be sure to check us out on demand on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and YouTube. So for this episode and for our guest, thank you and have a great night. We'll see you next time on the Goin Digital Show.